ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another package deal. Namely, the Famicom trilogy of my rating video for the Famicom trilogy, with the pixel remasters of the Famicom trilogy of FF. This is not going to be too long because this is pretty easy to explain. FF1 especially is kind of barren, so there's that. I will have to explain a bit more with FF2, so there we go. So, one session, did use the boosters, +3 to story, +20 to gameplay. Hey, there were no story negatives, which is actually kind of awesome. The 3 story positives were, of course, the sense of adventure, because this is, in essence, a D&D campaign, and from a design perspective, that's what they wanted, that's what they got. Very nice. Good visual storytelling, and good sprite work, because I actually do think the pixel remaster, at the very least, has some good sprite work. Hell, I'll even go ahead and say that pretty much every version of FF1 has had good sprite work. Not the greatest sprite work ever, but enough for me to be able to tell, what everything is, right? So, like I said, no story negatives, very straightforward. As I get into the gameplay, there is some negatives here, but overall, +20 over net. So, the music. Come on. You knew the music was going to be here. And I'm realizing I'm double dipping. You knew the music was going to be here. You knew it was going to be here. So, yeah. It's well done, and honestly, I think it's well done in both the remixes and the OG. And since this is the Switch version, you can actually listen to the OG, so that's good. The built-in cheats, the boosters are very nice. Really like them. I like the bestiary, and the quality of life improvements, which have been getting better and better with every re-release of this game, is just good stuff, right? There's actually a surprisingly amount of decent info in the game, which helps, because the original was kind of sparse when it came to info in the game. So, there you go. There are tutorials in here, and I feel like they actually work. There's not a lot of tutorialization in here, but the tutorials that it does give you are actually fine. The autosaves, which make the penalty for failure much less awful, because there's no real save points in this one. The helpful NPCs, because NPCs are actually helpful in this game, believe it or not. The auto battle of the pixel remasters, bestiary, quality of life, and auto battle are basically just options and music. Those are all like the staple pixel remaster ones, so you're going to be hearing me say those ones a lot. So, some good spell effects, some good core combat, some really good power progression and difficulty curve for me. As I honestly feel like there's no real cliffs to this game, and I do feel like the characters get progressively stronger, and there's no, Boric stats that make the power progression curve kind of oof, right? So, there's that. I feel there's good gameplay pacing, some good boss design, some good overworld design. Like the overworld feels like it's crafted very specifically to open up at very good key points, so that's good. Some good visual distinction, which is funny because looking at the NES version, there's actually some decent visual distinction there too, weirdly enough. I like the dungeon and world maps. The pixel remasters really know how to... I love those maps. Very good. I explained at the end of my original FF1 run, the dungeon maps will actually display as if you go into a room, it'll light up the rooms on the map, and you'll also be able to tell what chests you've looted or not, which is very good. The world map is also nice. Nice, which also lets you see if a dungeon still has chests for you to loot, for example. The intro, which I end when you cross the bridge north of Cornelia. I mean, you heard the song that played during that, so that's good stuff. And then I gave each of the 4 Fiends and Chaos a plus because I feel all of those battles are actually kind of cool. And yes, I did give a replayability plus for 27 positives, which of course by if you know basic math means there's only 7 negatives. Let's get into those quick. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You know them, I know them. You know them, I know them. We all hate them. Well, I hate the poison fetish at least. The encounter rate's too damn high. The poison fetish is obnoxious. The item prices are just all over the place, and that leads to some frustration, which also contributes to the grind. So, yeah, there is some backtracking, and it's actually kind of bad in this one. I hate to admit that. I really don't like Mount Gloog. So, And the itemization in this game is kind of awful, as a lot of the encounter chests are just not worth it, in my opinion. You know, it's kind of a shame. But yeah, that's FF1. That's pretty damn straightforward, if I may be so blunt. Which means we now move on to FF2. If you'll forgive me a second. 7 minutes. It took me 7 minutes to explain my positives and negatives. Negatives for FF1. Let that sink in. Just let that sink in. You know? So in case you're wondering why I'm just combining these, well, there's your answer, right? The longest one's probably going to be FF3, but that's beside the point. Alright. So, next up. FF2. This is a game that I feel gets the bad rap. More of a bad rap than it deserves, in all honesty. I felt the story was a plus 15, and I felt the gameplay was a negative 16. Net. Let me just confirm that. Oh wow, net neutral. Wait, what? That doesn't sound right. Give me a second. That is supposed to be plus 14. My bad. So, 2 sessions because shenanigans. Plus 14 to story, negative 15 to gameplay is how that went. So, that negative 1, but at the same time, I still think this game gets a bad rap, and mostly undeserved, though it's got some hiccups, which we'll get into. But let's start with the story. Dialogue in this game is honestly pretty simple, but at the very least, I at the very least feel it is effective, especially considering this is a freaking 8-bit game from the 80s, for God's sakes, right? This came out in, like, what, 88? 8, for God's sakes? Yeah. Actually, might be able to see on the menu. Give me a second. Yes, 88. So. Alright, so, there's some good visual storytelling on display here. The NPC chatter adds weights to the game's events, like with Nelly, for example. So, good stuff. For a story that couldn't be more blatantly inspired by Star Wars if it tried, it uses its dark tone well and potentially better than Star Wars. Well, A New Hope, anyway. Not Empire Strikes Back. Can't claim that as Empire Strikes Back is dark! And well done dark, too. Well, lest you think I'm, being stupid. Good sprite work, if you ask me. Decent internal continuity, if only slight, really. Good plot. Visual continuity with in regards to things like the aftermath of the cyclone. Minwoo, who we did not see, or we're seeing Virion right now, but Minwoo, who you saw going across, well, you would have seen, no, sorry, you can't see them. Minwoo is, of course, the white mage dude. Honestly, he may suffer from the game's absence of story, but what little is here makes him kind of awesome with his reliability and his character design that I honestly kind of wish they did more with his character, because he's actually kind of an awesome character. Then there's the character of Paul, whose actions, in my opinion, speak louder than words, so I gave him a positive. Gordon's arc, for as cliched as it was, the coward who has to step up and become a leader, I actually think it was done well enough and can be seen progressing throughout the entire game, which is actually kind of nice. Then there's the event that kicks off the entire story, namely Scott's death. It is well handled for a game from the 80s. Honestly, I feel like it's worthy of some credit, right? Because this game doesn't pull any punches. Oh, and none of these characters are revealed to be alive later, so that helps. Then there's Joseph's sacrifice, which was honestly a nice tragic moment to help show that the game is not pulling its punches. So, speaking of which, I terminate the intro at the end after Joseph's death, and I feel like it does a good job at setting up the story, including the Empire and their threat level. Now, despite my snark about being surrounded by assholes, I actually do like the whole sequence of destroying and escaping the Dreadnought. That whole sequence was actually pretty cool. I liked that. Then there's the after the effects of the Cyclone, which honestly are some great gameplay story integration. And I actually did like the ending. So there you go. This one's got a few story negatives, however. The opening scene, I don't like the Pixel Remaster doesn't know how to program the text properly, so text disappears too fast, and there is some bits of it where it's on there, right? I also feel like this story has some nasty pacing and padding issues, right? Where it feels like we will slam the brakes on the plot to go do this other thing, right? It all ties in, but it's still kind of like, it feels like we slammed on the brakes just because we needed Rickard to go get Rickard, right? Who may or may not be Kane's dad, but whatever. I leave that to speculators, right? And then there's the fake out of Leon taking over the Empire, only to have Matthias return suddenly. The Emperor return suddenly, which would have been cool if Leon's rule wasn't all of like 5 seconds. We don't even get a boss fight with Leon before his rule is terminated, so that sucked. And I just realized the same frickin' song is looping. Whoops! My apologies. So, gameplay positives now. The music, the options, the bestiary, the auto battle, the cheat boosters, the quality of life, and the autosaves. Need I say more? Which, yes, you can take that to mean that this game would have been much worse without all of the Pixel Remaster convenience features. Now, I know I stand alone on this. I actually like the Ask and Learn system. I feel it is well handled with the red text telling you something that's important, and to be honest with you, I actually never felt it was detrimental. There is a bit of walkthroughitis in this game, but I honestly never felt like the Ask and Learn system was the cause of that, Not really. I like the spell effects, I like the helpful NPCs, the world map is as good as it is in FFIII, and the dungeon map is also the same. Thing. What? Wait. I never gave the dungeon map up? Oh, okay, so we're up in the score. Ouch. So net neutral. Alright. Ditto the... Oh. It's right there, right underneath. Whoops. As soon as I started typing it. I'm an idiot. So yeah, no. Ditto the dungeon map. Visual distinction, another pixel remaster positive, I would imagine. The aftermath of the cyclone. It's reflected in the overworld and in the trash mobs. So good stuff there. The final dungeon, Pandemonium, is honestly a decently epic final dungeon, and I enjoy it. As the encounters are properly challenging with the chest bosses and actually worth a damn, even though the encounter rate itself is cranked through the goddamn roof, like with the Jade Passage. Also, I honestly love the final dungeon song, so there's that. Also, the song that plays during the final battle I like in this pixel remaster, which, to justify those... This is Pandemonium. And I think this one? And this is the final boss song. Really enjoy that. And while we're on the subject, I actually think the final boss fight against Mateus is legit and fun as hell. And in my opinion is also properly hard. So, kudos there, right? So, but unfortunately it can't be all sunshine and rainbows because there is a lot of negativity here. So, let's get into the negatives that caused the game to be a net negative 15 on gameplay, shall we? There's a lot of, I gotcha, type design on the world map. Went too far northwest? This sucks to be you, get curb stomped by ogres and land turtles. Yeah. Then there's grind. With the use to level system, it does cause some grind, so, Then the shop prices are just a little obnoxious, not gonna lie. Then there's the troll rooms. Oh god. Okay, this is a triple negative. So, the troll rooms. Oh god, the fucking troll rooms. This is something that a lot of people malign, and I understand. I finally get it. So, yeah. They always warp you to the center of the room. The encounter rate in these rooms seems to be always through the goddamn roof when the game feels like being mean. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the crows on this one. I think I meant to say go with the crowd on this one and say fuck these rooms. So three negatives there. Triple negative to the encounter rate. Pretty crazy that they cranked the encounter rate on this one. Ugh. The power progression curve is not good. I don't hate the use to level system like most do, but I have to admit it could have been handled better. Walkthroughitis is rampant in this game, as I mentioned earlier. The overworld design honestly can kiss my ass. This is the worst overworld I've ever seen in an RPG. It's so bad that I gave it a triple negative because it is so. You have to do it a very specific way, and there's no breaking from that. Even in FF1, you were allowed to break from the path a little bit, you know. So the backtracking is also so bad. I gave it a triple negative because, good lord, if you didn't have the ink nun, you'd be slogging through awfulness. There's in the gameplay, there's even some severe pacing and padding problems here. There is also a lot of bad dungeon design, which leads to railroading. So, yeah. There's some really bad encounter design on display, as a lot of the mobs just feel like they want to destroy you in the face instead of being balanced. There's some really bad flow of exploration, as most of the areas are mazes with dead ends and fucking troll rooms galore. This is why the troll rooms ended up getting a triple negative, because Good lord, I hate the game is in love with plastering troll rooms all over the place, and it's awful. The itemization is also awful this time around too, which I just can't stand. And I'm just gonna skip right to the finale. Then the status effect fetish plagues the late game in with frustration, so I gave 2 negatives there. Running is really wonky in this one. And, spells like Izuna and Life having a hit percent chance based on level, that's garbage. Heal spells should never have a fucking hit rate. It should be a 100% chance to hit, period. You know? By the way, if I ever review the Jug Drill duology on the Super Famicom, that is getting a triple negative as well. Ugh. The colored soul enemies are assholes, and I fucking hate them. The fucking element absorbing dicks. There's lack of info even in the Pixel Remaster, which is just what? The monster chest containing the 4 Ryos and Castle Finn can fuck right off with the petrification fetish. Hated that fight. Mysidia Tower, I really don't like how that one's designed, which is also the same for the Cyclone and the Jade Passage. Especially with the Jade Passage having a ridiculously high encounter rate. Which, funny enough, that's actually the Achilles heel of this game. The redonkulous high encounter rate and the use to level system not being used properly. So those are the 3 Achilles heels. The use to level system combined with the obnoxious encounter rate combined with the obnoxious dungeon design. Ugh. All awful. All crap. Yuck. So, there you go. That's FF2. I don't feel like FF2 is that bad. It's not terrible, but it's... Well, okay. It ended up a net negative game, but I feel like people claim it is one of the worst games ever! Oh, dear lord. You want an example of a game that I feel is actually fucking terrible? Well... Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. That's our next entry here. FF3. But to give one last word as I set up here for FF2, I don't hate FF2. But I don't think FF2 is very good, you know? But I do think the Pixel Remaster makes FF2 a lot more bearable than it otherwise would be. So, there's my last word on FF2. So now, it's time to move over to FF3. Now, FF3 was the one that really pissed me off. You want to talk a game that I think actually fucking sucks. 13 points away from rant view status. Negative 27 total. Total achieved with a negative 3 to game to story, and a negative 24 to gameplay. Oh god. Let's get into it. Let's just get right into it, shall we? Let's start with the positives, because there are some positives here. So, the sense of adventure is back, just like it was in FF1. The lighthearted tone is kind of cool. I also like the help the people nature of a lot of these quests, even if it does kind of lead to a lack of cohesion in the plot, but let's not get into that just yet. The theme of balance is pretty good, if a little too absent. The guest party banter, that's kind of nice. His stuff. There's some humorous moments throughout, which was kind of nice. Wow, the battle theme is short as fuck. Oh, also we should be doing that, so we'll go down here. Where was I? Right. There's some good visual storytelling and good sprite work on display here, so that's cool. Well, actually, wait. Well, no, that's fine. The sprite work wasn't great in FF1 anyway, or in FF2 anyway. So yeah. There's some good gameplay story integration. I love leaving the floating continent. I think leaving the floating continent is actually kind of a breathtaking moment. So that's pretty cool. I like the cavalry moment with the worm curse. That's pretty cool. I also admit that I also gave the cavalry moment right before. Or wait. Huh. Did I double dip? Or was there a cavalry moment right before we face Ant? No, that's the worm curse one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say no. That, not 45, 4. There we go. Okay. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this game a bone and say that the Warriors of Dark is an awesome concept. I wish they did more with it though. And the ending was honestly nice. They showed off the characters. That was cool. Let's get into the story negatives. There was 13 story positives, and since it's -4, you can kind of tell that there will be, of course, 17. What the hell? Let's reword this a little bit. Little or no characterization. There we go. So anyways, the text in the opening, still badly paced. Empty text with a hint of fake drama flavor. Because there's a lot of times where a guest character will be like... Will be like, I want to come with. Are you sure this might be dangerous? I'm coming with anyway. Okay. And that's what I mean by fake drama. It's like, we don't need that. That's just a waste of text, right? A waste of programming. There's also a lack of plot cohesion. I like a lot of the help the people kind of quests, but there's no real throughput of it, which is kind of eh. Also, the guest party members get either little or no characterization, and that kind of sucks. There are plot conveniences everywhere in this game. I mean, well, normally that wouldn't bother me too much. It's every goddamn plot point. Every plot point in this game is just plot convenience playhouse, and that got to me after a while, you know? There are some pretty obnoxious pacing issues, if I'm honest. There's some bad world building, as it feels like it's going to, and then it just doesn't, you know? There's some good world building, and then the rest of it is just kind of... No. Stuff that should have been built up, world built, but wasn't. I also really don't like the Gutsco fake out. That feels like a twist for the sake of it. I also really don't like the intro, which I chop after when we leave the floating continent. It's honestly lacking in delivering any real reason to care beyond darkness too rampant. And that's not good as FF1 and FF2 gave us said reason. Namely, the Destiny angle in FF1 and Scott's death in FF2. And yes, this one does kind of pseudo-lean on the Destiny angle. Well, you know what? No. It does subvert the Destiny angle. That's what we should do. as well, you know, so that it's not just a copy of FF1, but I don't know. It just feels like it was done with less fanfare. Oh, actually, you know what? No, let's, because this actually does kind of play into the Destiny angle, but it's more of a Destiny of, okay, the crystal has chosen you, who it is now your destiny to go save the world, right? You were chosen for this, right? Well, you happen to be here, so here's your powers. Go save the world, right? You know, it was destined that Warriors of Light would appear, just not who those Warriors of Light would be. That's the Destiny angle, if you're wondering. Then there's Arya's death, which is treated like it's a big deal when in reality we met her 5 fucking minutes ago. Triple negative for that. The whole sequence with the sewers is meant to be funny, and for me it just gives me a goddamn headache. That's with the old dudes. I really don't like those old dudes. Then there's Xande himself. In my opinion, he is a terrible villain. He is honestly one of the worst villains in the entire series. No characterization, no depth, nothing. Now, some people will say, but he was characterized earlier with the whole, you know, immortality thing and blah, 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 blah. Mortality thing and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but that's not a character. He's, like, that's a backstory. That is not a character. Right? And in my opinion, he's more boring than X-Death, because at least with X-Death, he had the theatricality, right? Whereas Zend is just there, and it's just bad, you know? We'll get worse villains. Oh god, we'll get worse villains. Hi, Bartendalus, how you doing? But still. Then the outro in terms of story is not good. It introduces an interesting concept of the 11th hour, which leaves literally no room to explore such a fascinating idea. So, there you go. And yeah, as you can tell, the Pixel Remaster did not help this one out too well in the gameplay department. Let's go over the positives first. Music got 2 positives with a special mention to the main battle theme, especially considering it had 2 variants. Right? So, I actually kind of like that. So, battle theme and the dynamic music when you're fighting in areas where you need to shrink, which is what the Woodwind Quintet is about. So, and that's what this is. So, there you go. No. Sure, we'll go with this one. So then we get into the Pixel Remaster ones. Options, bestiary, autosaves, auto battles, built-in cheats, the dungeon map, and the world map. All of that was good stuff. There is some decent enemy variety here. The spell effects are cool in the Pixel Remaster. The flow of exploration is actually not bad in regards to the overworld, as I feel like it opens up quickly enough, right? I also feel like this one actually has some good overworld design. Seriously, what the hell were you thinking, FF2? Buying items in bulk, cutting down the cost, which in this one really helps a lot, hence why this one gets the positive there. The class system may not be the heights it would reach with FF5 or Final Fantasy Tactics, but I think this is a good foundation. Also, it gets rid of the job. You need a specific number of JP from the Famicom release, and it also does away with that stupid job sickness. It's garbage in the fucking 3D remake. Classes you pick stick in cutscenes. So, for example, if you are an Onion Knight, if you choose like Dragoon, I was actually Dragoon, and if you choose that one to go into cutscenes with, that's the one that will show up in the cutscenes, right? So, There's some surprisingly well done gameplay story integration. Did I really give enemy variety twice? Oh god. No, I'm not giving 2. I am not giving 2 to the enemy variety. Alrighty, it gets 1, which means oh god, the game got worse. Twice. Ouch. But yeah. Okay, so I also like the core combat. Hein was actually kind of a fun boss fight if you have a scholar and the right items. And I'll admit, I kind of like the final battle against the Cloud of Darkness, as it was pretty epic. Epic when you defeat the other 4 assholes in their domain first. Easier said than done, if we're honest. And let's go with this one. Then there's the difficulty cliffs in this one. So now we're getting into the negatives. The difficulty cliffs were a triple negative. I really don't like the power progression curve. It feels kind of lackluster, if I'm honest. Story progression is not good. While normal explanation is nicely guided, the main quest is basically not at all. Grind was a triple negative in this one, as it feels like you really do need to grind if you're going to have any hope of conquering later stuff, especially with the spell charge system. The unwinnable battles are just fucking rude as fuck. As there are times where the game will want you to go over here, but if you go on your ship, for example, you go into an unwinnable battle and you get screwed over, which is just, really? Wow. I mean, how many people's games on the Famicom got fucking ended because they didn't save, right? I really don't like the boss design in this one, and it is very much a do this or get fucked. And it's the worst I have ever seen, and it can die in a fire. Triple negative there. I shouldn't say it's the absolute worst, but so we'll say it's the second worst, because there is one that is even worse in this series, now that I'm thinking about it. I also don't like the approach to dungeon design. It's honest, that's another annoying one, because it forces me to change classes to progress. And that sucks. At least with FF5's Phoenix Tower, where if you manage your resources, you can avoid a lot of the completely mandatory crap, you know? So there's that. So yeah, triple negative for that. Spells get missed in this game. I've never liked that. Walkthroughitis rears its head again. The lack of save points in dungeons is just fucking mean with this one. And it wasn't too bad in FF1 and 2, but god, in 3, so many of the dungeons are begging for a save point to be there, you know? Then there's a negative that I actually give the Pixel Remaster. There's a filter for lack of a better word, in places, and, well, and after a while, it kind of starts to hurt my eyes, because there's, like, dust effects in specific areas, and it's kind of like, what the fuck, you know? This is some of the worst character itemization in the series, in my opinion, as it takes forever to be able to buy Phoenix Downs. Tent items apparently don't exist in this game, and the game has a real ethers? What's that? Approach to MP recovery, and that's just no. Just no. Triple negative for that crap. The encounter rate, once again, too high. I only give it 1 this time because I felt like the encounter rate wasn't super obnoxious, but it was still too high. So, it's a bad pacing throughout. I really don't like the Jin, and it causes the difficulty curve negative, and he's just too hard for an early game boss, you know? Tozus and its tunnel, this is the village where you have to shrink down to get into it. That could kiss my ass. I felt Salamander was a cheap asshole of a boss. And in terms of gameplay, this might be the third worst intro in the series for me, beaten only by the truly fucking awful FF10 and FF13, which I know might be contentious because FF10 has a hugely celebrated intro, I'm pretty sure. But I hate the intro of FF10, and we'll get into why when we get there. But yeah, but FF3's intro is. FF3's intro is grindy as fuck, kinda boring, and honestly just feels tepid and bland. Sure, we help people, but it just feels like we're going through the motions, and it kinda sucks. So, triple negative there. Oh, Garuda. Good lord, Garuda. I don't think anybody's going to fucking argue against me on this one. It's you either destroy him with Dragoons or get fucked. I literally went up against him like 2 or 3 times, then I turned everybody into a Dragoons and just jumped at him, and I curb stomped. One round. I one-rounded him when I switched to Dragoons. Need I say more? Then there's the encounters in the ancient ruins, which are just awful. I didn't like fighting Almond, and Zonde was a disappointment. Oh god, and then there's Twin-Headed Dragon. Oh, Twin-Headed Dragon is just an asshole. He hits way too hard, has way too much HP, even at 30k. Hey, it's a 3D remake, he's got 100k. Wrap your head around that shit. And he's just an awful fight in general. So, triple negative there. And then I gave the outro a triple negative because it's bad. The final dungeon sucks as it is a 2-part exercise in pain. You can't restock once you hit the world of darkness. Not to mention that fighting Zan starts the final gauntlet, and the Pixel Remaster had to add a restore point to make the world of darkness even remotely tolerable. Well, a restore point and the fucking autosaves. So yeah, this might just be the worst outro in the series. So triple negative there. So there you go. So, I just spent 40 minutes explaining the positives and negatives of all 3 of the Famicom trilogy. I'm gonna go ahead and say this bluntly. FF3 is a game you play because you bought the whole package, not a game you try to seek out on your own. I don't want to put too fine of a point on it, but I hate this game. I hate FF3, specifically. You know, I have no desire to replay FF2, but I might at some point, right? Just to max everything out, or whatever. FF3, I'll never play it again. And I've already said I'm vetoing the 3D version, which is funny because as I'm actually going through the FF4 3D remake, and holy crap, am I glad that's going to be basically told, I've already done it, I don't need to do it again, yay! Because that version's kind of as well. But that's it. That is the Famicom trilogy, the Pixel Remasters of the Famicom trilogy, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, God. Oh. This has been exhausting. To be blunt, this has been supremely exhausting to go through. It's funny because I started this. I'm recording this on the 11th of January, which is like 4 days from when it's going to go live. And I started this on the 2nd of January, which basically is 8 days of stream time. And I managed to get through all of this, even with the delays that FF3 caused me. Which is cool. But I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I really don't feel like this is good. These ones are too good. FF1 is the most replayable game in this entire thing, and that's just because it basically doesn't have as much of the bullshit like 2 and 3 do. I applaud them for trying new stuff. I applaud them for, for trying to get things, to progress to the point. I understand that FF2 and FF3 walked so FF4 could run, as I've already discussed with my rating video for the Pixel Remaster of 4. But if I may be so bold, again, like I said, FF1 is the one is the one that I would say, really play it, especially with the Pixel Remaster. FF2 and 3 is literally just, if there's time, and if you feel so inclined, then go for it. But don't feel pressured to, because, no. This was an annoying experience, and I ended up hating it. So, in the end, that's FF1 through 3, ladies and gentlemen. I am leaving it behind. I will probably replay FF1 at some point, because I actually kind of like FF1, and and it would be just kind of a casual DGAUZ type of game. But regardless, I don't know. I don't know what else to say here, because I wish I had more to say about these three. I will, of course, have way more to talk about when it comes to, like, when it comes to, say, the FF4 3D version, and probably after years, we'll see on that one. But definitely when it comes to FF5 and FF6, I will just be, like, sitting here gushing a lot. This is not me gushing. This is me just kind of sitting here and just kind of glad that I can leave the Famicom trilogy behind me. Am I stalling this out? Yes. Do I care? No. Because I'm just glad it's over at this point. Because this has been an experience, and I kind of just... I'm glad I played these ones finally, but they're not games that I feel like I will need to go back to, right? The only time to really go back to FF2 specifically would be if I were to do the Origins collection on PS1, which I have digitally, to debunk the whole... to actually see if everybody else is wrong, or if I'm wrong about the whole targeting thing on the PS1 version, and that'll be a test. I might do that as kind of a mini little the myth, little brief. Blue Wolf debunks a myth, a Mythbusters thing. But we'll see. All the same, that's it. So, as we play out with the song, this is Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers, signing out of this rating video. Gonna go make its thumbnail, and then gonna go upload it. See you next time. Later.